Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. I want to talk some Mike Trout. We'll save that for later on in the interview. I want to start, though, with the Cape Atlantic League Track and Field Championships going on this week over in Egg Harbor Township, and a couple big storylines there. I know you were there to cover it for the press. I want to start with Rocco Ordilli. He won the 100 over there, and, you know, that's no surprise. The kid, as people in the track and field community know, is probably the favorite coming in, but you know, coming off of a major knee injury, he was also a standout football player. He went down in the middle of the season for St. Joe. I mean, how nice was that moment for Rocco to come back and he's able to compete now in track and field and come away with a Cape Atlantic League victory in the 100?
Well, I really think it's just a testament to Rocco and his work ethic and his ability to come back. I mean, like you said, an outstanding running back for St. Joe. When St. Joe went out to Ohio to play the football game out there, he got tackled. The player grabbed his face mask, and his knee got caught in the artificial grass, and he ended up tearing the interior cruciate ligament in his right knee. That was October, and you know, there's no way you would have thought that he would have been back on the track and field scene, back sprinting, back competing in track and field this spring. Yet there he was. You know, he came back a couple of weeks ago. And for him to come back and to win the 100 meters, like you said, he's one of the state's top sprinters, but I don't think there was many people that thought they'd see Rocco Ordilli at the starting line of a major championship race this spring. So just a testament to Rocco's work ethic and his desire to really come back. And he's a senior, and he wanted one more chance to try and qualify for the meet of champions and try to win the meet of champions. You know, he's finished third in the 100 meters at that race the past 2 years.
Certainly Ordilli, one of the major storylines at the Cape Atlantic League Track and Field Championships on the boys' side. I know the big storyline, or at least one of them on the girls' side, is Rachel Armstead of Millville. She had a win in the 400 hurdles, and she really competes in a number of events for Millville. How impressed were you with Armstead? We talked so much about Raquel Armstead during football season, but Rachel Armstead, really one of the top track and field standouts, and again, she competes for Millville.
Yeah, you know, she won 4 events, which is impressive enough. But what really impressed me was the time frame that she won those 4 events. The Cape Atlantic League Championship meet is a meet for the league's elite runners. Unlike a South Jersey Championship meet or even a state championship meet, you know, those are conducted over 2 days. You know, they last like 4 hours Friday night. They last 5 hours on Saturday. Athletes have, you know, a decent amount of time to rest and recover between events. The Cape Atlantic League Championship meet started at 4 o'clock. It was over about 7:30. And, you know, she wins the 400 hurdles, the 100 hurdles, the 200 dash, and the long jump. So, and puts in quality performances in all 4 events. So, you know, not only impressed with the victory she has there, but also, you know, the time frame in which she did it.
Checking in right now with Mike McGarry, press of Atlantic City, talking some high school track and field. I also want to talk some high school baseball, Mike, and round number 2 of the Diamond Classic is today, and we'll run through the schedule real quick for our listeners here. Mainland takes on Kingsway at 10:30. That's at Deptford. Then the game to follow there at Deptford is Eastern versus Williamstown. Other quarterfinal games at Washington Township, you have Northern Burlington versus Haddonfield, and then Gloucester Catholic versus Bishop Eustace. So let's focus in on the Mustangs, the lone Cape Atlantic League team to survive after round 1. And they're going up against the Kingsway team today. And Mike, we talked about it last week, but this is sort of the beauty of this tournament. I mean, you don't generally see a lot of these teams, or at least you wouldn't see them very often. And again, sort of uncharted waters right now for the Mustangs of Mainland.
Well, Mainland is in the midst of a tremendously busy week. You know, I think they played 4 games this past week, including a big win over Ocean City yesterday that gave them a share of the Cape Atlantic League American Conference title. Now they come back and play a Kingsway team that really jumped on Ocean City last Saturday in the first round of the Diamond Classic. You know, Kingsway got out to a 7-0 lead on Ocean City and won the game 7-2 in the first round. So now Mainland comes back and plays Kingsway in this game, the quarterfinal. If Mainland wins, they play a semifinal tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If they win that, they play the Diamond Classic final at 5 o'clock. And, of course, there also is the state tournament starts Monday, and Mainland plays Cumberland Regional. And, you know, you look at Mainland, they're the number 2 seed. Cumberland Regional, the number 15 seed. Cumberland Regional is a much better baseball team than a number 15 seed. You know, when I found out that Cumberland was the number 15 seed, I was a little surprised. So that's a tough first-round game for Mainland. So, this time of year, test your pitching, and the Mustangs' pitching will definitely be tested. It's almost like a curse. The more they win, the more pitchers they're going to have to find.
It's an interesting dynamic and an interesting thing to talk about. We love talking about this Diamond Classic tournament. I mean, teams want to be a part of it. It's sort of a feather in your cap to take part, but is the timing of it not ideal? I mean, you talk about teams having to be so deep pitching-wise. What does a coach do? I mean, do you throw your best guy in the later rounds of the Diamond Classic because you try to win that prestigious tournament, and then maybe throw one of your younger guys the next day in the state tournament? It's almost a game of chess with these high school baseball coaches that advance deep into this Diamond Classic tournament.
Exactly. I think there are two things there. I think, number one, the test of a good baseball team is pitching depth. So that's part of being a good baseball team. Obviously pitching is a key part of baseball on all levels. And, teams are different when they throw their ace pitcher than when they throw their number 3, number 4 pitcher. But I think a mark of a good baseball team, part of being a good baseball team, is having pitching depth. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I do think the Diamond Classic, with its timing, does put public schools in a bit of a bind compared to the non-public schools. The public schools playoffs start Monday, so not only do they have to deal with the pitching over the weekend of the Diamond Classic, but they also have to deal with playing some emotional baseball games on possibly Sunday, and then coming back less than 24 hours later and playing a state playoff game. I think that's tough. Compared to non-public schools, their playoffs start Thursday, so they almost have 3 days of rest to sort of get their pitching in order and recover from the weekend too. So I think the timing does make it a little tougher for public schools, but the other side of it is part of being a good baseball team is having pitching depth.
One more question on the Diamond Classic, and then we'll move on. I know there's no true seeding system in the Diamond Classic, no true 1 through 16, and I know there's been some gripes about that in recent years. I mean, you look at the other side of this bracket today, you have Gloucester Catholic going up against Bishop Eustis. For a lot of people, those are two of the top 10 teams, maybe in the state, certainly in South Jersey. And, instead of maybe facing each other in the semifinals or final, they face each other in the quarterfinal round. The way it's set up right now, does it work for you? Would you like to see more of a true seeding process to try and get the quote-unquote better teams facing each other later? Is it one of those deals where, hey, everybody's good and you're going to have to face these teams at some point and might as well be in the quarterfinals?
Well, I would like to see the tournament tweaked just a little bit. First of all, let me just say, I think it's a tremendous event. It's a great event. I think it's one of the highlights of the high school sports season, be it winter, spring, or fall. I love the fact that, 10 teams get automatic bids into it. I love the fact that, it allows, it's not just a Group 4 event. It's not just a big Group 3 event. It's just not a non-public A event. I love the fact that Group 1 teams, by being, the leaders of their league, can get in. Group 2 teams, by being the leaders of their league, can get in. I do think, however, that, if they tweaked it a little bit, and once those 16 teams are in, if they seeded them 1 through 16, I think that would be a positive change for the tournament. Because, like you said, you've got Gloucester Catholic and Bishop Eustis facing off today at 1 o'clock in a quarterfinal game, a game that could easily be a championship game. 2 teams playing as well as anybody in South Jersey. So I love how the teams are selected, and I don't have a huge problem with the format of predetermined who plays who where. It takes a lot of argument out of it. But I do think, the event could be just a little bit better if they did seed 1 through 16.
Catching up with Mike McGarry right now from the Press of Atlantic City, talking some high school baseball and more. Of course, Mike, we had mentioned that the state playoffs begin on Monday. The brackets sort of just released at the end of last week, so I want to go through a few of these brackets quickly with you and maybe some things that jump out to you. And we'll start in South Jersey Group 4. We've talked about it before, but usually, historically, traditionally, I guess you should say, really tough. Any team can make a run. Eastern is the number 1 seed. There's a handful of Cape Atlantic League teams in the mix. Millville, the 11 seed, up against Cherry Hill West, certainly an interesting first-round matchup. And you have an all-Cal first-round matchup as Absegami takes on EHT, also Toms River North, the 2 seed in this bracket. Any first-round games, any storylines jump out to you as some things to keep an eye on in South Jersey Group 4?
I think from the Cape Atlantic League perspective, and it's a game I'll be at on Monday, I think Egg Harbor Township and Absegami, EHT a 10 seed, Absegami a 7 seed. I think that's an interesting first-round matchup. The winner of that game goes to the quarterfinals, and I think it's capable of winning a quarterfinal game. You got, Absegami has, they beat St. Augustine earlier this year. They've got Matt Ardente, who's headed to Seton Hall Prep. He's one of South Jersey's top pitchers. And you've got an EHT team that's probably better than a number 10 seed, an EHT team that beat Eastern a couple of weeks ago at the Eastern tournament. So, I think the winner of that game can make a little run. And Absegami made a little run last year getting to the semifinals. So, I think Group 4 kind of wide open. And I think the winner of Absegami EHT can, maybe get into the next week, get into the second week of the tournament.
South Jersey Group 3, Ocean City earns the number 1 seed. Mainland, the number 2 seed. Ocean City gets Camden Tech in the first round. The Mustangs, as you mentioned, get a very talented 15 seed in Cumberland. Some other first-round matchups there. Hamilton is the 10 seed. They get number 7. Highland, also Burlington Township, certainly a team to contend with. They're the 4 seed in this one. So you have Ocean City one side of the bracket, Mainland on the other side of the bracket. It seems like we've talked about a lot of these two teams going against each other a lot this season. Certainly they played yesterday. Are those two teams, in your opinion, Mike, the heavy favorites to advance? Obviously, the chalk would have to happen, and as we saw last year, Mainland likes to throw that chalk out the window as a lower seed.
Right, and I don't think the baseball playoffs are something where you kind of look at the seeding and I don't pay too much attention to the seeding. I just think it's anything can happen in the baseball playoffs. Obviously everybody from the Cape Atlantic League perspective would love to see Ocean City and Mainland play for the third time. I know Ocean City would love to get another shot at Mainland after losing 2 regular season games. I'll just reemphasize what I said before. That first-round game, to me, when I look at that first-round game and I see Mainland and Cumberland in the first-round game, that's a little bit of a scary game for me for the Mustangs. I mean, Cumberland plays in the Tri-County Conference. They played a good schedule. They played a lot of teams tough. That's no ordinary 2 versus 15 game for Mainland on Monday.
Before we let you go, let's transition into some pro baseball talk. I know you were in Baltimore last night, Camden Yards, to see Mike Trout and the Angels come east to take on the Orioles. What was the atmosphere like in dealing with Trout, too? I mean, what are your impressions of Mike? I know you interview him quite a bit, but it seems like his rock star status sort of elevates every time we bump into him. But, what was it like last night at Camden Yards?
Well, you hit it right, and I'll have a story on, PressiveAC.com probably later today and in the paper tomorrow. He just creates a sensation wherever he goes around the ballpark. 2 things kind of struck me last night. Is first of all, he just seemed like he got physically bigger to me. I don't know what it is, and I've seen him, since he was 15 years old. He just seems like in a room full of professional athletes. He just stands out. He just seems so much bigger than the other guys. And, you're dealing with 25 professional baseball players, and just physically he looks more imposing than any of them. So that's the first thing that sort of stood out. And the second thing is, like you said, you talk about his rock star status. He's coming off a Wednesday night game where, in the 10th inning against the Colorado Rockies, he leaped over the fence to rob Troy Tulowitzki of the home run. In the 11th inning, he makes a shoestring catch and then throws out Carlos Gonzalez at the plate to keep the game tied. And those 2 plays are kind of dominated the sports highlight shows on Thursday, the baseball highlight shows on Thursday. It just seems to me that, he just does, he makes a spectacular routine at this point. He just seems to do something, that wows you, if not every game, every other game. So, always good to go down there and kind of make that annual pilgrimage to Baltimore when the Angels come east and catch up with Mike. And like I said, it will be a story on our website later today and in our and in the Press of Atlantic City tomorrow.
All right, we'll look forward to that. Mike McGarry from the Press of AC, always great stuff. Thanks for hopping on board this morning, talking some track and field, high school baseball, and of course some Mike Trout baseball as well. Mike, thanks again. We'll talk to you next week, hopefully.
Yeah, exciting times here in high school sports, and I just want to add exciting times at the Press. This Tuesday we come out with a redesign, kind of change the look of the paper. So, if you're a subscriber, you're going to get a lot of new stuff, a lot of new features with a lot of our old coverage. And if you're not a subscriber, now's the time to jump aboard, sort of a new beginning or rebirth for us. So exciting times all around for high school sports and for the Press. So Nice talking to you, Mike. I appreciate a couple minutes.
You got it. Thanks again. Mike McGarry from the press of Atlantic City.